Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is your final exam review. Your final exam is going to consist of 20 questions. They're all going to be short answer. You will be able to use your study guide on the exam to help you with that. So this is your study guide. I recommend you take notes on what you see in here on this PowerPoint to help you. So whatever notes you take are the notes that you can use on your final exam. It's going to cover 3 topics: individual rights, gun control, and terrorism. The first, with individual rights, is Ruby Bridges. So in this picture, you see Ruby Bridges being depicted as she is walking to school. She's walking to school being escorted by 4 U.S. Marshals. The reason why she's being escorted by United States Marshals is because neither the local police force nor the state National Guard would protect her. So the President Dwight Eisenhower at the time had to send in U.S. Marshals, so those are controlled by the President, to escort her to and from school to ensure she got there safely. A little bit about Ruby Bridges is she attended the William Frantz Public School in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1960. As I said in the prior slide, she had to be escorted by federal marshals so that they ensured her safety to and from school. She was chosen by the NAACP. So she was one of 4 students that was chosen throughout the state of Louisiana to test the Louisiana law saying that black and white students could no longer go to school together. In 1960 was after Brown versus Board of Education, so the NAACP wanted to see if Louisiana would allow her to go to school as they should have legally. And Louisiana did. They let her attend the school. However, she was proud to do this. She accepted the role. She was proud to try and see if she was allowed to go to the school. And for months, she was the only one to attend the school. Finally, a few other white students did attend the school after their parents determined that going to school with a black girl was not a reason to prevent their children from going to school. However, for the entire year, she was the only student in her class. There was no other students in her class for the first year. That did change after that, but for the beginning, she was the only one in the school, and then eventually the only one just in her class. At one point in time, her teacher saw her stop and turn to the crowd that had gathered every morning on her way into school. And her teacher saw her say something to them. And afterwards, her teacher asked what she said. And she said, "I didn't say anything to them, but I did pray for them." Her family was extremely religious and went to church every single Sunday from the day she was born, and really worked and prayed with her over the issue of her going to school and all the problems that went along with that. Her mother, however, was extremely proud of her, and a quote from her mother said, "Our Ruby taught us all a lot. She became someone who helped change the country. She was part of history, just like the generals and presidents are part of history. They are leaders, and so was Ruby. She led us away from hate, and she led us nearer to knowing each other, the white folks and the black folks." And eventually she went on to graduate from that school system in an integrated school district. Now, not everyone had the same experience as Ruby Bridges did. There was another article that you guys read from an author named Bell Hooks, and her author was Bone Black. And Bell Hooks also attended an integrated school and did not have necessarily the same feelings that Ruby Bridges had. She originally went to a Crispus Attucks school, which was an all-black school that she loved and adored, and was forced then to integrate with some other African-American students into a white school. And one thing that she's known for saying, or one thing that she said in her article, was, "We cannot imagine what it would be like to walk by the principal's office and see a man who will not know our name, who will not care about us. Already grown-ups are saying it will be nothing but trouble, but they do not protest. We feel like cattle in a stockyard near our house, herded, prodded, and pushed." So here she is feeling like they're being forced into the situation, leaving a school where she felt like the principal knew her and knew everything about her into a school where she didn't feel like anyone knew her, where they felt like they were just being pushed around from one place to another. They had to get on the buses really early in order to get to the school on time, but then were there almost too early and had to wait in the gym until school started. She also talks about how Black boys were typically not allowed into the smart classes, as she calls them, even though they knew that the boys were smart. There was a fear of mixing Black boys with white girls. So only certain white or Black students were allowed in these classes. Mostly they were girls that were allowed in the classes. Every once in a while, a boy was allowed into the class, but only because they thought that he was a good servant and he had proven himself. They felt like they were being watched all the time to ensure they were doing the right things. And they really felt like nobody wanted to change, that they were being forced into this, that no one really wanted to change. They were walking, again, through National Guardsmen to get to schools to be protected, but that there wasn't, that people just didn't want to be there. Moving on to the second topic that you all are going to be tested on, and that is the topic of gun control. There are 3 terms that you should probably be familiar with when studying gun control. The first is the NRA, which stands for the National Rifle Association. The NRA protects the interests of gun owners and gun manufacturers. So it is in their interest to allow people to have guns, to protect the right to own guns, to protect the First Amendment right, and to essentially get guns in as many hands as humanly possible is their motto. The second term you should be familiar with is bump stocks. And bump stocks is a device that you can put on a gun. You can purchase it independently and add it to a gun. And what it allows you to do is accelerate the gun fire. So essentially it allows you to fire a gun faster and allow more bullets at a rapid rate. The third term that you should be familiar with is the no-fly list. And the no-fly list is a list of individuals who have been linked to some type of illegal activity. Typically, they are somehow linked to terrorist activity. Now, that does not mean that they are a terrorist. It means that the FBI or another security agency, maybe the NSA, has somehow identified that person as having some sort of a link or some sort of a tie or some sort of interest in illegal activity. It could be terrorist activity or some sort of link with some sort of terrorist organization. And so they are not allowed to fly on airplanes within the United States. Now, that does not mean that they can't get on airplanes in other countries that do not have a no-fly list, but in the United States, they are not allowed on an airplane. However, those individuals are still allowed to purchase a weapon within the United States. There are a few different methods that we want, or that people are asking for as far as gun control goes. So we have 2 different groups. We have a group of individuals, a lot of students, especially students from Parkland, who are fighting to increase gun control. And then we have a group of individuals that is fighting to allow individuals to continue to have guns, so to prevent gun control from happening. Some of the asks are asking for background checks to make sure that people who are mentally ill or who suffer from some sort of mental illness do not access a gun. They currently can do that. So currently, people who suffer from a mental illness, even though it is known, are allowed to access a gun. And that is one of the biggest complaints with the Parkland students, is that they felt that the individual who accessed the gun in Florida did have a mental illness, and if this was allowed, he would not be allowed to have accessed that gun. The second is for gun restrictions for individuals on the no-fly list. As I said earlier when talking about the no-fly list, individuals who are on the no-fly list are currently able to purchase a gun, but they want to ban individuals from the no-fly list from purchasing a gun. The third is banning bump stocks, so preventing people from making their gun shoot faster. Bump stocks is what we saw being used in the shootings in Las Vegas, where he was able to add that to his gun and shoot out rapid fire, machine gun-like fire, or automatic gunfire. which would allow essentially more individuals to be killed. The fourth is raising the age to purchase a gun to 21. Again, this is coming a lot from the Parkland students because they were the ones, or the person that went in Parkland was 19. So if the gun age was 21, again, that would have made it harder for him to legally purchase that weapon. So raising the age to 21, a lot of places have already done that. We've seen Walmart. Their statement was, in light of recent events, we've taken the opportunity to review our policy on firearms sales. Going forward, we are raising the age restriction for purchasing of firearms and ammunition to 21 years of age. We will update our process as quickly as possible to implement this change. Dick's Sporting Goods is another one that is also raising the age to 21. So they're taking that upon themselves to do that. But we're asking for, or they are asking for, a national law to be 21. Another request is to arm teachers. Arming teachers would be what the NRA is asking for, the National Rifle Association is asking for. And what that would do would be to train and arm individuals with weapons inside of the schools. We see that President Trump is looking at this. He said, armed educators and trusted people who work within the school love our students and will protect them. Sorry, Belle. Very smart people. Must be firearms adept and have annual training. Should get a yearly bonus. Shootings would not happen again. And big and very expensive deterrent. Up to states. Tweet from President Trump about arming 1 out of 5 teachers. That would be really expensive. If you wanted to arm 1 out of every 5 teachers, if you just did the basic, most cheapest option, it would cost a total of $251 million per year. And that would be $78.1 million for training and $180 million in arms. If you want to do the full expensive training, it would be $718 million for training a year and $359 million for full arms. And that would cost us $1 billion per year. Now, if they wanted to put armed guards in the school, that would be 6 to 8 per school. That could cost us $63 billion to put 6 armed guards per school in every school, or $109 billion if you wanted 8 guards per school. And again, that's per year, what that would cost to arm teachers. Moving on to the third topic, terrorism. You guys did your terrorism simulation called Skyjack, where the country was, or where an airplane was shot down and countries had to determine how to respond to that situation. This sums up a lot of what we struggle with when it comes to terrorism, this political cartoon. And this political cartoon is a political cartoon on the Patriot Acts. There was 2 different Patriot Acts, one written in 1775 and another written in 2006. We see in the 1775, this is Patrick Henry, and he had a very famous quote, said, "Give me liberty or give me death." And that was a quote that he did say. The second is George Bush, and he did not say this, obviously, "Give up your liberty or we're all going to die." Patrick Henry was a founding father. He was trying to protect our freedom, liberty, from the British during the Revolution. He believed that in order for us to have our freedom, we had to fight away from the British and become an independent country. George Bush is saying, give up your liberty, so giving up your freedom, or we're all going to die. And this is what we read in your Skyjack assessment about the NSA, the National Security Agency, in implementing the 2 programs that they did on watching your telephone data and collecting your data on your telephone calls, but also, in addition to that, collecting information that you post online or electronic information in a program called PRISM. And the fact that the federal government has access to all of that information, which would be giving up your liberty, giving up your freedom. And the reason why they say you should give that up is because they're trying to protect you from terrorists. So saying that you're giving up that because we're all going to die. And this idea that we now are giving that up to protect you. So you have two ironies here. We have Patrick Henry saying that we would rather die than give up our freedom, and then